What if a hidden book contained secrets that could reshape everything we know about creation, prophecy, and God's law? The Book of Jubilees claims to reveal lost divine knowledge, messages given to Moses by angels that never made it into the Bible. But why was it excluded? What truths does it hold that powerful institutions wanted to keep hidden? This ancient text speaks of angels shaping history, a forbidden timeline, and a cosmic battle between good and evil. It even suggests that humanity has been following the wrong calendar for centuries, distorting sacred prophecies. Could this be the missing key to understanding the end of times? The time has come to uncover the truth. What secrets have been buried for millennia? And more importantly, why were they hidden from us? Let's dive deep into the mysteries of the Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees, often called Little Genesis, holds secrets that have puzzled scholars and theologians for centuries. It claims to reveal lost details about the creation of the world, patriarchal history, and divine commandments. But why were these revelations kept from mainstream religious texts? What knowledge does this book provide that could reshape how we understand God's law and biblical prophecy? This ancient text presents a structured timeline that reinterprets the events of Genesis and Exodus, offering an alternative perspective on biblical history. From the story of Joseph of Egypt to the covenant with Abraham, this book dives deep into narratives that, while familiar, contain layers of wisdom largely ignored in traditional scriptures. As we explore its pages, we uncover a rich tapestry of divine interventions, angelic influences, and cosmic truths. One of the most controversial aspects of the Book of Jubilees is its emphasis on a 364-day solar calendar, rather than the lunar system widely adopted later. According to this book, the deviation from the solar cycle led humanity into spiritual disarray. Could this mean that the current religious calendars are misaligned with divine intention? If so, how does this impact the observance of sacred festivals and prophecies tied to the end of times? Beyond calendars and timelines, the Book of Jubilees introduces the idea that angels were created before the earth itself, playing a crucial role in guiding early humanity. They were entrusted with divine laws and directly communicated with the patriarchs. This suggests that figures like Jacob and Esau were not merely historical characters, but key players in a grand, celestial design. If angels were so deeply involved in human affairs, what does that mean for modern spiritual warfare and our own divine purpose? The book also makes a shocking claim. Divine laws were not first introduced to Moses on Mount Sinai. Instead, they were inscribed on heavenly tablets, predating Moses by generations. This means that laws like the Sabbath, dietary restrictions, and sacrificial practices were already known and followed by figures such as Abraham and Jacob. If these laws existed long before the Exodus, what implications does this have for the validity of modern religious traditions? Spiritual warfare takes center stage in Jubilees, introducing Mastema, a powerful entity often compared to Satan. He is portrayed as actively working against God's plan, influencing rulers like Pharaoh, and testing the faith of the righteous. This paints a picture of history as a battleground between divine and dark forces, emphasizing the necessity of unwavering faith. Are modern struggles simply reflections of this ancient spiritual conflict? The Book of Jubilees is not just a historical retelling. It carries prophecies about the end of times, predicting Israel's exile, redemption, and the restoration of divine order. It hints at a future messianic figure who will lead God's people into a new era of peace. How do these predictions align with other prophetic scriptures? Could they provide hidden keys to understanding today's world events? The final vision of the book describes a divine judgment, where the wicked are cast into fire, and the righteous enter an eternal kingdom under God's rule. This echoes themes found in Revelation, yet with unique details that challenge traditional eschatology. If this book holds hidden truths about the Messiah's coming reign, why has it remained outside mainstream teachings? The secrets of the Book of Jubilees stretch far beyond what most have been taught. Its revelations shake the foundation of what we think we know about creation, divine law, and prophecy. But what does this mean for us today? Are these forgotten truths calling us to reevaluate our understanding of Scripture? The journey into its mysteries has only just begun. The Book of Jubilees is not just another apocryphal text. It's a document that was deliberately excluded from mainstream religious traditions. But why? Why would a book that expands upon biblical history and God's law be cast aside? To understand this, we must dive into the theological, political, and historical forces that shaped religious canons. One of the main reasons for its exclusion lies in its radical emphasis on a structured timeline and a divinely ordained solar calendar. While the accepted Jewish and Christian traditions adhere to a lunar-based system, Jubilees insists that this is a corruption of divine will. This claim directly challenged religious authorities and set the book on a path to obscurity. Could this mean that our modern understanding of sacred time is fundamentally flawed? The rejection of the Book of Jubilees was also tied to its deep connection with the Essenes, a Jewish sect that lived in isolation and upheld strict purity laws. These individuals were known for their rigorous interpretation of the Torah and their belief that mainstream religious authorities had deviated from divine truth. The book's alignment with their teachings made it controversial among Pharisaic and later rabbinic scholars. Could it be that the Essenes preserved a more authentic form of God's law than the dominant religious leaders of their time? Another challenge came from the book's depiction of angels and their influence over human affairs. It portrays a structured, divine order where angels dictate laws and intervene directly in the lives of patriarchs like Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph of Egypt. This heavy angelology conflicted with the evolving theological perspectives of early Judaism and Christianity, which sought to limit angelic influence in doctrine. Was the Book of Jubilees too mystical for the mainstream faiths? The concept of Mosaic law existing long before Moses also posed a major problem. Traditional Jewish and Christian teachings hold that divine commandments were given to humanity at Sinai. Yet Jubilees claims these laws were known and followed by earlier patriarchs. If true, this would mean that divine law is eternal, and its establishment was not exclusive to the Sinai event. This idea fundamentally altered the perception of covenantal theology, making it difficult to accept within established religious structures. The Book of Jubilees also introduces Mastema, a figure often likened to Satan, who actively opposes divine will and influences rulers like Pharaoh. Unlike traditional biblical texts where Satan plays a more subtle role, Jubilees portrays Mastema as a direct antagonist in the cosmic battle between good and evil. This depiction heightened concerns that the book leaned too heavily into spiritual warfare, making it less palatable for religious authorities who preferred a more restrained approach to demonology. Another controversial aspect of Jubilees is its apocalyptic tone. The book lays out detailed prophecies of the end of times, predicting Israel's suffering, exile, and eventual restoration. These elements closely mirror later apocalyptic texts, such as the Book of Enoch and parts of Daniel and Revelation. Its exclusion raises the question: were these prophecies seen as too dangerous or politically inconvenient for early religious leaders? Finally, the final judgment described in the Book of Jubilees presents a strikingly similar vision to Christian eschatology. It speaks of a messianic age where the righteous will reign and the wicked will face destruction in fire. Could this be another reason for its suppression? Its parallels to emerging Christian theology that threatened the religious order of the time? The exclusion of the Book of Jubilees from the biblical canon was no mere accident. Its theological, chronological, and eschatological claims challenged powerful religious institutions, leading to its suppression. But what if this book was never meant to be hidden? What if it holds keys to understanding our past and our future? The next chapter takes us deeper into one of its most controversial aspects: the divine calendar that could change how we perceive time itself. Time has always been a central element in religious practice. But what if the calendar we follow today is not the one divinely intended? The Book of Jubilees presents a dramatic claim. The 364-day solar calendar was ordained by God, while the later adopted lunar calendar represents a deviation from divine order. Could this change in timekeeping have led to spiritual corruption and misunderstanding of sacred events? The Book of Jubilees insists that the creation of the world followed a structured, harmonious cycle of 364 days. This number is significant. It perfectly divides into weeks and seasons, ensuring that sacred festivals always fall on the same day each year. In contrast, the lunar calendar, which became the dominant system, creates inconsistencies, shifting holy days over time. If divine festivals were set to a solar rhythm, Does it mean we've been celebrating them on incorrect dates for centuries? Ancient Jewish sects like the Essenes strictly adhered to the solar calendar, believing it was the only true way to honor God's law. Their rejection of the lunar system put them at odds with mainstream religious leaders, leading to their isolation. This disagreement over timekeeping was not just a matter of preference. It represented a deeper theological conflict about obedience to divine instruction versus human tradition. Could this be why the Book of Jubilees was suppressed? The text suggests that the angels themselves follow the solar cycle, reinforcing the idea that time, as dictated by the heavens, should align with a structured 364-day system. If angels, as divine messengers, maintain this order, what does that say about our responsibility to do the same? Could it be that by following a lunar-based system, humanity has distanced itself from celestial alignment? The implications extend beyond calendar debates. The shift from a solar to a lunar system disrupted the observance of sacred events, possibly affecting everything from the timing of Passover to the prophetic significance of future events. The Book of Jubilees warns that failure to adhere to the correct calendar leads to confusion and ultimately to divine judgment. If timing plays such a crucial role in prophecy, have we miscalculated signs related to the end of times? This issue is particularly relevant when examining the prophecies regarding the coming of the Messiah. If certain dates hold key prophetic significance, but humanity has been using an inaccurate timekeeping system, could it mean that interpretations of messianic timelines have been flawed? If biblical prophecy is tied to divine cycles, is there knowledge hidden within the Book of Jubilees that could unlock the correct timeline? Many modern scholars and researchers have revisited this ancient debate, arguing that a return to the 364-day system might restore the lost harmony between divine and earthly timekeeping. Could re-examining this calendar give new insights into the prophecies of the end of times and the return of the Messiah? The concept of divine timekeeping may seem abstract, but its effects are far-reaching. If the Book of Jubilees is correct, our perception of sacred time has been altered for millennia, possibly affecting the fulfillment of prophecy and our connection to God. But what if this knowledge was intentionally hidden? What other truths might be waiting to be uncovered in the pages of this ancient text? The next chapter will explore the role of angels and their divine authority over time, laws, and humanity itself. Since the beginning of time, angels have played an essential role in shaping the divine order of the universe. The Book of Jubilees reveals that these celestial beings were not only created before the creation of the world, but were also entrusted with governing its fundamental laws. Their influence extends beyond mere messengers. They are active participants in upholding God's law, ensuring the universe operates according to divine will. Unlike traditional biblical interpretations, which depict angels as passive observers or messengers, the Book of Jubilees describes them as cosmic administrators, directly involved in human history. They were assigned domains over the natural world, guiding the stars, the elements, and even the fate of nations. If angels govern the fabric of reality, could this mean that our daily lives are more influenced by unseen forces than we ever imagined? One of the most striking aspects of the Book of Jubilees is its emphasis on angels as the original teachers of divine commandments. According to this ancient text, Abraham, Jacob, and Esau, and other patriarchs did not learn God's laws through direct revelation but rather through angelic instruction. This raises an intriguing question. If celestial beings were responsible for imparting divine wisdom, does that mean our understanding of Mosaic law and prophecy is incomplete without acknowledging their role? The angelic hierarchy is a crucial theme in the Book of Jubilees. It suggests that certain angels hold dominion over time, ensuring that sacred festivals align with the 364-day solar calendar. This reinforces the idea that divine order is intrinsically tied to timekeeping and celestial alignment. If angels are the guardians of sacred time, does this mean that humanity's shift to a lunar calendar disrupted a divine system set in place since the beginning? Another controversial claim made in the text is that some angels were appointed as rulers over nations, guiding and influencing human affairs. This aligns with similar ideas found in the Book of Daniel, where angelic princes are said to govern different kingdoms. If this concept holds truth, then political events and historical conflicts could have deeper spiritual implications than we often acknowledge. Are global powers subtly directed by angelic forces working behind the scenes? However, not all celestial beings remained loyal to the divine order. The Book of Jubilees introduces the idea that some angels, much like in the Book of Enoch, rebelled against God's authority and sought to corrupt humanity. These fallen entities play a crucial role in shaping the spiritual warfare that continues to this day. If angelic influence can be both benevolent and malevolent, how do we discern divine guidance from deception? The text also hints at a cosmic struggle between these forces, with righteous angels waging an ongoing battle against rebellious ones. This is particularly significant when analyzing prophecies of the end of times, where divine messengers are said to intervene in human history to restore order. Could these celestial battles be shaping the conflicts we witness in the modern world? The Book of Jubilees presents a universe that is far more interconnected with the spiritual realm than traditionally believed. Angels do not simply deliver messages. They uphold laws, influence leaders, and even dictate the course of history. If we have overlooked their role in shaping the divine narrative, what else have we misunderstood? In the next chapter, we will delve into one of the most groundbreaking claims of the Book of Jubilees: the idea that Mosaic law existed long before Moses himself. When we think of Mosaic law, we often assume it was first introduced at Mount Sinai. However, the Book of Jubilees challenges this belief by asserting that God's commandments were established long before Moses. In fact, the patriarchs, Abraham, Jacob and Esau, and even Joseph of Egypt, are described as already observing divine laws. This revelation shifts the perspective on biblical history, raising an essential question. Was God's law always present, woven into the very fabric of creation? According to the Book of Jubilees, God's law is not bound by time or human history. It was written on heavenly tablets, meaning that its principles were eternal and unchanging. This idea suggests that divine commandments were not given as a temporary set of rules, but as an everlasting framework for righteousness. If this is true, then obedience to God's laws is not merely about following traditions. It's about aligning with the divine order that has existed since the beginning. The text highlights how the patriarchs instinctively followed God's commandments, even without formal revelation. Abraham, for instance, is depicted as keeping the Sabbath, offering sacrifices, and maintaining purity laws that were later codified by Moses. This portrayal challenges the conventional narrative that laws were revealed solely at Sinai. Could it be that divine laws were always known by those who truly walked with God? If the law existed before Moses, then its significance extends beyond a specific covenant with Israel. The Book of Jubilees suggests that these commandments were universal, intended for all of humanity. This perspective aligns with the idea that creation itself was built upon divine principles, guiding human conduct long before formal religious institutions emerged. If these laws were embedded into creation, does this mean that disregarding them disrupts the natural balance? Another key argument in the text is that sin was judged by these laws even before their formal revelation. The destruction of the pre-flood world, the punishment of Sodom and Gomorrah, and other divine judgments all point to the existence of a moral code that predated Moses. If God's law was already in effect, this would mean that humanity was always held accountable, regardless of when the commandments were officially given. The implications of this claim are profound. If figures like Abraham and Joseph of Egypt lived righteously by following laws that were later given to Israel, then obedience to God's will transcends cultural and historical boundaries. This understanding challenges the modern notion that divine laws were meant only for ancient Israel. Could it be that these laws still hold relevance today, even for those outside of the traditional faith? The Book of Jubilees not only presents pre-Mosaic observance of the law, but also connects these laws to heavenly realities. The idea that commandments are recorded on heavenly tablets implies that their observance is not just about earthly discipline, but about aligning with celestial order. If following divine law is a reflection of heavenly will, how might that change our perspective on obedience and morality today? This revelation leads to another critical question. If God's commandments were eternal, then why did later generations stray from them? Was it due to human forgetfulness, corruption, or external influence? The next chapter will delve into an even more mysterious claim: the existence of heavenly tablets, and how they shape our understanding of divine law across time and space. Throughout history, sacred texts have been revered as the ultimate source of divine truth. But what if there existed an even higher record, one that predates all written scriptures? The Book of Jubilees introduces the concept of the heavenly tablets, an eternal record where God's law, historical events, and even future prophecies have been inscribed since the creation of the world. If this is true, then every divine commandment and every pivotal moment in history has been predetermined and recorded beyond human reach. Unlike traditional belief that the Torah was first given to Moses, the Book of Jubilees claims that these laws were merely transcriptions of an already existing celestial document. This suggests that Mosaic law was not a new revelation, but rather a restoration of laws that had always governed the universe. If God's commandments were eternally inscribed, could this mean that divine justice operates outside of time as we know it? The heavenly tablets don't just contain laws. They also hold detailed records of human deeds and the fate of nations. The text suggests that the righteous, like Abraham, were following these divine principles long before they were formally given at Sinai. This means that divine law wasn't dictated based on historical events. It existed beforehand, shaping history itself. Could it be that our understanding of God's law is merely a fragment of a much greater cosmic order? The idea of a heavenly record-keeping system appears elsewhere in biblical traditions, such as the Book of Daniel, where it speaks of books being opened in the final judgment. Similarly, Revelation describes the Book of Life, in which names of the righteous are written. If these heavenly records exist, it implies that human actions have consequences that extend beyond earthly life. Is our destiny already inscribed, or do we have the power to rewrite our fate? Another profound implication of the heavenly tablets is their role in prophecy. The Book of Jubilees states that events, including those leading to the end of times, are already written. This presents a paradox. If the future is preordained, how does free will fit into the equation? Can humans alter a destiny that has already been inscribed in the divine record, or are we merely fulfilling what has long been decreed? The existence of heavenly tablets also raises questions about spiritual authority. If divine law was not first revealed to Moses but has existed eternally, then religious institutions are not the ultimate gatekeepers of God's truth. This challenges the idea that divine knowledge is exclusive to any one group. Instead, it suggests that divine will is accessible to those who seek it earnestly, regardless of earthly hierarchy. Furthermore, the text implies that even angels abide by these records, reinforcing the idea that God's law governs not just humanity but the entire cosmos. If celestial beings themselves follow the decrees written in these tablets, does this mean the universe is structured around divine justice? How does this impact our perception of moral responsibility and accountability in daily life? The Book of Jubilees presents a fascinating view of reality, one where past, present, and future are already woven into an eternal design. If the heavenly tablets truly exist, then human history, prophecy, and divine commandments are not separate threads, but part of a unified cosmic blueprint. But if this knowledge was hidden or forgotten, what else might be buried within the sacred texts? In the next chapter, we will explore the battle between divine and dark forces, one that has raged since the dawn of time. From the very beginning, the universe has been a battleground between the forces of light and darkness. The Book of Jubilees unveils this cosmic struggle, revealing the existence of Mastema, a powerful adversary who opposes divine order. Unlike the more familiar depiction of Satan in mainstream religious texts, Mastema is portrayed as a direct force working against God's law, influencing rulers, corrupting humanity, and challenging the faith of the righteous. This spiritual warfare isn't limited to symbolic struggles. It is an active conflict playing out in human history. The Book of Jubilees describes Mastema's role in testing Abraham, convincing Pharaoh to enslave the Israelites, and opposing the work of Moses. His influence is not just external, it extends into human hearts, causing doubt, fear, and moral weakness. If this adversary has been at work for millennia, how do we recognize and resist his schemes today? A striking element in this text is the notion that Mastema and his forces were permitted to exist by divine will. This raises a compelling question. Why would God allow such opposition to persist? The answer may lie in the idea that human faith must be refined through trials. Just as Abraham was tested in his devotion, so too are all who seek to align themselves with God's law. Could it be that overcoming darkness is essential for spiritual growth? The Book of Jubilees also sheds light on the fallen angels who descended to earth, spreading corruption among mankind. These beings, initially tasked with guiding humanity, instead turned against divine purpose, leading people into sin and false worship. This echoes similar accounts from the Book of Enoch, reinforcing the belief that the battle between light and darkness is not just metaphorical, it is deeply rooted in history and reality. The role of prophecy in this conflict is significant. The Book of Jubilees describes a predetermined victory where God's law will ultimately prevail, and Mastema and his forces will be defeated. However, the timeline of this prophecy remains a mystery. How do the events unfolding in today's world align with these ancient predictions? Could we be living in the final stages of this spiritual battle? One of the most powerful lessons from the Book of Jubilees is that humans are not passive observers in this war. The text encourages steadfastness in faith, adherence to divine commandments, and resistance against deception. If Mastema's greatest weapon is doubt and corruption, then knowledge, prayer, and righteous living are the shields that can protect against his influence. Are we truly prepared for this battle, or have we underestimated the forces working against us? This chapter also raises a thought-provoking point. Are certain events in human history direct reflections of this celestial conflict? Wars, oppression, moral decline, could these be manifestations of an unseen struggle for the souls of mankind? If so, then the battle is far greater than any individual. It is woven into the very fabric of existence. The war between divine and dark forces is not a relic of ancient times. It is ongoing, shaping the course of history and influencing the fate of nations. But if the Book of Jubilees is correct, this battle will not last forever. The forces of darkness will be overthrown, and divine justice will be restored. But what role do we play in this grand cosmic drama? The next chapter will explore the ultimate victory, prophecies of the end times, and the final restoration of God's kingdom. The Book of Jubilees is not just a historical recounting, it is a book of prophecy. Hidden within its pages are revelations about the future, foretelling events that will shape the fate of nations and the ultimate destiny of God's law. According to this ancient text, history unfolds in a divinely structured timeline, leading to the final end of times, where justice will prevail and divine order will be restored. The text predicts the exile and suffering of Israel, emphasizing that these tribulations are not random but part of a divine plan. However, it also speaks of redemption, a time when God's people will be gathered once again, their covenant renewed, and the world restored to righteousness. If these prophecies hold true, what does that mean for us today? Could we be witnessing the unfolding of these ancient predictions in our modern era? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Book of Jubilees is its assertion that human history follows a predetermined cycle. The idea that time is divided into jubilees, or sacred periods of 49 years, suggests that key historical events occur according to a divine schedule. If so, could it be possible that the timing of major world events, wars, uprisings, and even spiritual awakenings have been set in motion long before they came to pass? The book also describes the coming of a messianic figure who will lead God's people into an era of peace and divine rule. Unlike later biblical texts that provide more details about this figure, Jubilees focuses on the cosmic order surrounding his arrival. If this prophecy is to be believed, then the final redemption is not merely a distant hope, but an event woven into the very fabric of time. Are we drawing closer to this climactic moment? Alongside the promise of redemption, the text warns of great turmoil. Before the final restoration, a period of darkness and testing will sweep across the world. This mirrors similar prophecies found in the Book of Daniel and Revelation, where the faithful must endure trials before the ultimate victory of light over darkness. Could the chaos and division we see in today's world be part of this foretold purification process? The Book of Jubilees also emphasizes the role of God's law in the final judgment. The righteous, who have remained faithful, will be rewarded, while the wicked will face destruction. This aligns with other eschatological texts, yet Jubilees presents a unique perspective. The idea that judgment is not just a future event, but one that has been unfolding throughout history. If divine justice is already at work, how can we ensure that we stand on the side of righteousness? Another fascinating element in the prophecy is the return to the original divine order, including the restoration of the 364-day solar calendar. The deviation from this system, according to Jubilees, led humanity into corruption and confusion. Could a return to this sacred rhythm be a key to aligning with divine will once more? As we examine these prophecies, one question becomes clear. Are we living in the final stages of this grand cosmic timeline? The idea that history has been meticulously planned by a higher power challenges the notion of randomness in world affairs. If every event is part of an intricate divine pattern, then perhaps our choices today carry far greater significance than we realize. The Book of Jubilees provides a prophetic roadmap, one that connects past, present, and future in a unified divine narrative. But what happens after the final battle between good and evil? What will the world look like when righteousness finally reigns? In the next chapter, we will explore the ultimate destiny of mankind, the coming of the Messianic kingdom, and the final judgment. The Book of Jubilees not only outlines the divine structure of time and law, but also offers a profound vision of the ultimate culmination of history, the final judgment, and the establishment of the Messianic kingdom. In this sacred conclusion, all forces of evil are defeated, and God's law is fully restored. But what exactly does this final era entail, and what role do we play in it? According to the Book of Jubilees, the wicked will be cast into a lake of fire, an eternal punishment for those who rejected divine truth. This imagery, echoed in the Book of Revelation, reinforces the concept of an irreversible separation between righteousness and corruption. If such a fate awaits those who stray from God's will, what does that say about the choices we make in our daily lives? The righteous, on the other hand, will enter a new age of divine rule, a time where justice, peace, and purity reign supreme. The Book of Jubilees describes this era as a return to the original divine order, where humanity is fully aligned with the will of God. This parallels the prophetic visions found in both Jewish and Christian eschatology. Could this be the true purpose of creation, a world where harmony with divine law is finally achieved? The role of the Messiah is crucial in this final chapter of history, though the Book of Jubilees does not provide an explicit messianic figure as later scriptures do. It does allude to a divine restoration led by God's chosen. This ruler will bring justice to the oppressed, destroy the forces of darkness, and establish a kingdom rooted in God's law. How does this compare to other prophecies about the coming of a Redeemer? A fascinating element of this messianic kingdom is the return to sacred traditions lost over time. The restoration of the 364-day solar calendar, for example, is highlighted as essential to realigning humanity with divine rhythms. This suggests that part of the end times restoration involves not just spiritual renewal, but also a return to divine timekeeping. Have we unknowingly distanced ourselves from the structure that was meant to guide us? The Book of Jubilees makes it clear that this ultimate victory is not merely symbolic. It is a tangible transformation of the world. No longer will sin, suffering, or deception hold power over humanity. The forces that once ruled with injustice will be eradicated, and the righteous will live in eternal peace. But before this glorious future arrives, trials and tribulations must first pass. Are we prepared to endure these challenges in faith? The prophetic elements of Jubilees align with broader eschatological themes across ancient traditions. Many faiths speak of an impending purification, where humanity will be tested before the dawn of a new era. The question remains, are we approaching the fulfillment of these prophecies? And if so, how can we ensure we stand among the righteous when judgment comes? The final vision of the Book of Jubilees is one of hope. Hope for justice, for restoration, and for eternal life under divine rule. It is a reminder that despite the trials of this world, a greater plan is unfolding. But with this knowledge comes responsibility. How will we choose to live our lives knowing that every action, every decision, is leading us toward this ultimate destiny? The Book of Jubilees challenges us to rethink history, prophecy, and our place in the grand design of time. With its final chapter closed, the journey through its mysteries leaves us with one final question. What will we do with the wisdom it has revealed? After uncovering the mysteries within the Book of Jubilees, one thing becomes clear. This ancient text challenges everything we thought we knew about creation, divine law, and prophecy. If these revelations were intentionally hidden, what else has been concealed from us. The battle between light and darkness, the role of angels in shaping history, and the prophetic timeline leading to the end of times. Each of these elements forces us to rethink our understanding of faith and destiny. Could it be that we are living in the very days foretold in these lost scriptures? Now, the question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to accept the history you've been told? Or will you dig deeper to uncover the truth that was buried for millennia? The answers may reshape your faith, your future, and the way you see the world itself. If you want to keep exploring these hidden truths, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There is so much more to discover, and together, we will unveil the secrets that have been lost to time. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the truth.